Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way to your seats ASAP as the Prime Minister has arrived in the hall. Preceded by the traditional drums and dancers of Sri Lanka hailing from the hill country. The Prime Minister and the dignitaries will make their way up onto this stage. Ladies and gentlemen, you may take your seats. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and Ayubowan, as we say in Sri Lanka, wishing you a long life. Today signals a renewed emphasis being placed on world trade. Today, we lay the groundwork to trade for success by connecting, competing, and changing, a vital three-pronged approach to galvanize a highly interconnected global marketplace that increasingly works within a technology-driven, boundaryless milieu. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Export Development Forum 2016, right here in Colombo, Sri Lanka, in collaboration with the International Trade Center and the Sri Lanka Export Development Board. To make the formal welcome address, I would like to invite the Chairperson and Chief Executive of the Sri Lanka Export Development Board, Indira Malvatta.
Ayubowan. Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Malik Samarawikrama, Honorable Sujeeva Senasinghe, Madam Arancha Gonzalez, Your Excellencies, Secretaries and Head of Government Institutions, distinguished delegates and invitees, media representatives, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure indeed to welcome all participants to the 16th World Export Development Forum, better known as WEDF 2016, to be co-hosted in Sri Lanka by the Sri Lanka Export Development Board and the International Trade Center for Geneva. As hostility towards globalization and trade integration gains ground in Europe and in the US presidential debates, the World Trade Organization 2 weeks ago slashed the outlook for trade growth by 1/3. The WTO has announced that world trade will grow this year at the slowest pace since a financial crisis and the Great Recession that followed. In its latest World Economic Outlook update, the IMF also echoed the worries around trade. A key explanation for the slowdown in trade is that the world economy simply isn't growing as fast, and therefore demand for goods and services around the world remains weak. The IMF estimates that the weak trade growth is explained by the weak economic growth and the weak investment. Therefore, it is increasingly important for policymakers to address the underlying reasons for the people's skepticism around trade, to infuse popular support for trade integration, and to grow the benefits of trade. Policymakers need to address the concerns of workers and of industries, may it be goods or services. The forum, therefore, is very timely for new partners and potential investors to talk business and develop greater trade. It is of special significance to Sri Lanka at a time when the country is proceeding with multiple free trade agreements and considering slashing of trade barriers. I wish to thank the ITC for the confidence it placed in my country and the organization I proudly lead for co-hosting WEDF along with the vibrant private sector of Sri Lanka. It was many long hours of work, but we all enjoyed working together as one team. I wish the delegates a very pleasant stay in the friendly, warm island of Sri Lanka, and may the deliberations be beneficial to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Malvatta, for setting the backdrop for the World Export Development Forum 2016. I would now like to invite the Executive Director of the International Trade Center, Madam Arantxa Gonzalez, for her address.
Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Minister for International Trade, dear Indira Malwati, Chairperson of the Sri Lankan Export Development Board, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very auspicious moment for the International Trade Center as we bring the World Export Development Forum to Sri Lanka, a country that has been for centuries in the trading routes between East and West, and now more and more in the trading routes between North and South. Over the next 2 days, we are going to be doing 3 things. First, we are going to be discussing how to make trade possible. This is what we do when we open our markets to international trade. And if in the 20th century we focused on tariffs, it is time that in the 21st century we look at non-tariff measures. We look at services trade, the big untapped potential, including for Sri Lanka. And in doing so, we look at how we synergize multilateral trade opening with regional and bilateral trade opening, and in particular that we look at mega regionals. And this is precisely what we will be doing here. But making trade possible is only the first step. We also need to ensure that trade happens. And for that, we are going to be looking at what matters, both at the level of the business environment of a country, as well as on the competitiveness of its industries, of its businesses, large, medium, and also small and micro enterprises, who need to be competitive to be connected to international markets. We are going to be looking at digital trade, which offers a great potential for connecting the unconnected, and through that generate better quality jobs. This is where ITC, together with Alibaba, will be launching a new document, a new study, a publication to help businesses tap into the Chinese e-commerce market. We are also going to be looking at standards and regulations, which is what matters for businesses to connect with international trade. Finally, and this is the third thing we will be doing, is also connect businesses. We have close to 200 companies from all over the world, more than 30 countries, discussing, building networks, building partnerships, dealing, creating business, generating trade. Let me, in closing, call your attention to 2 issues that I hope will feature prominently in our deliberations. First, for trade to be truly inclusive, we need to ensure that women and youth are also part of international trade. This is why we're going to focus on youth entrepreneurship in our deliberations, and this is also why tomorrow we are going to ring the Colombo Stock Exchange bell for She Trades. Second, the second inclusion that I want to mention is that of geography. The world's economic center of gravity is returning to Asia. By 2030, an estimated 2/3 of the global middle classes will be here in Asia, but we need to ensure everybody shares in this process. At the heart of Indian Ocean maritime routes, Sri Lanka is strategically located between today's growth poles in the East and South Asia and tomorrow's growth poles in Africa. Sri Lanka cannot miss this opportunity to return to its rightful place in the trading routes. Welcome to WEDF and have an excellent 2 days of interaction with all of us. Thank you so much.
The three things that this forum will be looking at: how to make trade possible and ensuring that trade happens, and also changing the way trade is done. Thank you very much to Madam Gonzalez. It's now my pleasure to invite to the podium to make his address the Prime Minister of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, the Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Honorable the Minister, the State Minister, the Executive Secretary, ITC, Secretaries, Honorable the Vice Minister, Ambassadors, delegates, and friends. This forum is being held at an opportune time for Sri Lanka. When we have decided to refocus our attention on exports, growth, and expansion of employment. For about 8-9 years, we lost our focus on exports. We had the GSP Plus to enter Europe, so did Bangladesh. We gave it up, while Bangladesh kept on and has virtually increased its export earnings on garments alone by about 5 times. We focus instead on foreign remittances, but that is limited. When people want good jobs, they want to enter the middle class, they want a higher income. That growth can come only through exports, not through remittances. Remittances will send you a limited amount for a large number of people. So we miss those opportunities of growth. We miss the revenue. We depended on foreign debts, commercial debts, and commercial borrowings. The end result was the people in this country didn't have satisfactory jobs. They certainly had jobs, but they felt they were underemployed. And the desire of the people were to enter the middle class. That desire was not met. This is why the government of Sri Lanka, headed by President Maithripala Sirisena, has first focused on the political targets of million jobs and an expanding middle class. That is our political targets. To achieve this task in a short time, we formed a national government. Both our parties got together. For us, this was a war, not one that killed people, which we had put behind, but how do we get investments and how do we go out, capture the export markets, so to give a future for our young people. With this in mind, we have first focused on making Sri Lanka the hub of the Indian Ocean for business, for logistics, for finance. To make ourselves the hub of the Indian Ocean and to go for the development of our 3 major ports, Colombo, Hambantota, Trincomalee, and 2 large airports in Katunayaka and in Mattala. Make the facilities available for logistics and communications. Make it attractive for business and finance. Then make Sri Lanka the platform for competitive value addition and to join the global value chain. This is in short our strategy. We spent 1 year working out the details. Most of will be announced this month or next month with the budget. One area of concern was the drop we had in the ease of doing business, but that too is being addressed. So this is basically the strategy. And to back up Sri Lanka's hub of the Indian Ocean, our infrastructure is focused on one large corridor, Kandy, which will be expanded into Wayamba Northwestern, which will take the spillover of industries from the western megapolis, as well as an area for export agriculture, fisheries, and tourism. Then the western megapolis itself, which will be a mega city of 8.5 million people. And within it, a financial city, an offshore financial center between Singapore and Dubai. These are ambitious goals. This is why, being ambitious, we have a national government. Then we have the southern development, focused on tourism, which is one of our main drives, and along the low-hanging fruits, and on to Hambantota, where the industrialization of Hambantota is now planned, and there are developments going on a public-private partnership for the Hambantota Airport and the Hambantota port. That's a very large expansion. We are working on this with the One Belt, One Road project of China. The second corridor that we are developing is around Trincomalee. Build Trincomalee as an economic hub, as a harbor, servicing the Bay of Bengal. Look at industries and the vast potential for tourism. This is in brief the infrastructure for our employment creation. Then we have to find the markets. So on Saturday, I'm leaving Sri Lanka to go to Brussels to renegotiate the GSP+. But unlike 2002, when growth depended only on Europe, the shift is coming to Asia. So we look at 3 important agreements. With India, the Economic and Technology Cooperation Agreement. This will enable us to have closer cooperation with India, especially with the 5 southern states, which together with Sri Lanka is the fastest growing area of the subcontinent, and at the moment has a combined GDP of $500 billion. So there's a lot of scope with Sri Lanka and India working together. We are working and negotiating another FTA with Singapore, triangular arrangement that we will have between our 3 countries. Later on, we will also negotiate free trade agreements with the other Bay of Bengal countries. So Bay of Bengal will be a fast-growing area with fast-growing incomes in the coming 20 to 30 years. Under the One Belt, One Road initiative, we are also now talking to China on a free trade agreement, and finally a comprehensive economic partnership dialogue with Japan. It's in this way that we are looking at the Asian markets, the European markets. As to how USA will develop, we will know only after November, when the new regime comes in. But we have made the plans as to where new markets are going to be. Then the incentives, which will be announced soon for foreign direct investments or local investments. We want to accelerate the process. And one area that we are going to focus and to give incentives is for the domestic manufacturing industry to become competitive and go out to the world. We have a fairly good manufacturing industry catering to the domestic market, but that alone is enough. That will not create any more employment. We have to go out. So as we become competitive, while we are encouraging foreign direct investments of those who come into this country, we have the potential that our industry, the local industry, potential to expand and go into the nearby markets which they know well. There is no one in the domestic industry who doesn't know the regional market or the US market or the UK or the European market. So we are planning to give sufficient incentives that they could get new machinery, they could raise the capital, train their people, so in the next few years they can expand and compete. There is tourism, which is ready to take off, and the digital economy. All this has to be underpinned by training for human resources. These are the programs which will finally create employment. And what is the employment we want? If you look at a person, I think a minimum of $300 a month would be their ambition. You have jobs below that. People are coming, and they are seeking employment there, but move out quickly. There are many jobs below $300 which are not even filled. So the reality is that we have to find jobs that investments will bring at $300 a month. So we have been focusing on this aspect too, to ensure that we have a larger consumer market in Sri Lanka, which also means helping out our small and medium enterprises to take up part of the employment. It may not be possible in the large enterprises. So this is the task, this is the plan. And finally, why are we doing this? We want a better life for our people. We want better incomes for their people. They should have a secure future. So the way for jobs for young people, way for expanding the middle class, the way for a secure future is to go through the export market, open up our services, or get into our manufacturing. So that is the war that we have to fight. The war we are fighting to get in. At a time, as the executive director said, the global outlook is not favorable. Still, we are a small country. And we are a country which will say every $1 billion counts. So if you look at every $1 billion, then it's easy for us to get into the markets because we are small. Our small size sometimes can be an advantage, but it requires specialization. Because how we go ahead, it requires initiative. It is to achieve this objective that President Sirisena, myself and the government are committed to. And the first phase was in developing the policies, and the agreement with the budget will come, the implementation, and pushing everyone to perform in the coming years. So we would like to have your views, your assistance. Since you all are gathered here today, I would request you in the next 2 days to give us your opinion on how we can further implement and make a success of our new export strategy. Thank you.
Reiterating the advantage of having a strategic geographic location, as was done by Madam Gonzalez, the Prime Minister there laying the groundwork for Sri Lanka becoming the catalyst in world trade and eventually building the largest consumer base in the world.